students! Today we're going to talk about volume. It's 7, 1, 2, and 3, and we're talking about volume. And this is really loud. But volume can also be really soft. So I'm going to try to make this video where you can understand it. So I'm going to get really loud again when we start to talk about volume, when we're learning volume in this unit.
Mr. Collins, why are you being so loud? I can hear you all the way from my classroom.
Mrs. Milam, I'm trying to teach volume.
But everybody knows that in math, volume isn't loud.
Oh, yeah. I haven't had a long enough break. Hello, students. Now that we got that cleared up, who knew? We're going to start with finding the volume of a cylinder. Okay? A cylinder is something that you might remember as what a can might look like, a soup can or something like that. It is two circles connected by a rectangle. Okay? A circle connected by a rectangle. And you're always going to be given either the radius, which is the distance from the center to the outside edge, or the diameter, which is the distance all the way across the circle through the center. Okay? The formula for finding the volume of a cylinder is V equals pi r squared h. V for volume. Pi is the pi key on your calculator. Used to, we would do 3.14. We're not doing that anymore. We're using the pi key on the calculator. R squared. R is the radius, which is the distance from the center to the outside edge, and h is the height of the cylinder. So the height is the distance between the two circles. Now, most of the time the cylinder is going to be standing on one of the circles, but sometimes it might be laying this way, and so the height is the distance between the two circles. Okay? So all you have to do is plug in the numbers that you have to find the volume. Simple as that. So let's say that the height for this is 8 and the diameter is also 8. Okay? Now in order to fill in my formula, I have to know the radius. If the diameter is 8, how do I find the radius? Yeah, you're exactly right. You divide 8 by 2 and that gives me the radius. So V equals, actually I'm going to write it on the other side. I'll write it over here. V equals pi times 4 squared, because half of 8 is 4, times 8 is the volume. And then that's where we'd use our handy dandy calculator, type in the pi key, times 4 squared times 8, and that gives us the volume. I don't have a handy dandy calculator with me, so guess what? It's one of your practice problems for later on. But that's another story altogether. So plug that into the calculator, that's the answer to the volume. Volume is how much I can fit inside the cylinder. So I can fit that much stuff inside the cylinder. The next shape we're going to find the volume of, how much will fit inside, is a cone. And yeah, you want to first think of an ice cream cone. Absolutely. Who doesn't want to think of an ice cream cone? So an ice cream cone has a circle, and then we have this triangular shape down at the bottom. Okay? So again, we've got a circle. We're either going to be given the radius or the diameter. And then the height. We need to know how high it is. Now for the cone, it's particular here, the height is the distance from the tip of that triangular part all the way to the center of the circle. So this is the height. Now you might also see them draw it something like this, and that be the h. So they're indicating that. But you can also find it from the center of the circle down to the tip of the cone. And the formula for the volume of a cone is V equals 1/3 pi r squared h. So the pi r squared h is exactly the same as the cylinder. The 1/3 is new for the cone. And again, it's using the exact same thing. I find out what the radius is and the height is, I plug it in, and then I'm able to find the volume. Okay? So let's say, for instance, that we're going to talk about an ice cream cone. The ice cream cone is about 1 inch as a radius. Okay, so we'll call it 1 inch radius, and a normal ice cream cone is probably about 7 inches tall. So we're going to say that that's 7 inches. All right. So then I'm going to fill in my formula. V equals 1/3 pi, using the pi key again on the calculator, pi key. And then I'm going to find out what r squared is. R is 1, so 1 squared times 7. Again, I don't have a calculator with me right now. V equals 1/3 pi r squared times 7. Plug that into the calculator, and there's your answer. You'll probably have to round, probably to the 10th or the 100th, but the instructions will tell you that. Okay? Again, finding the radius and the height. Remember, the height on a cone is the distance from the center of the circle, or the base, all the way down to the tip of the cone. That's all. The last shape we're going to look at in finding the volume, mathematical volume, of the sphere, or is the sphere. A sphere is what you think of as a ball. Okay? Now, the definition of a sphere is a shape, three-dimensional shape, where every point on the outside is the same distance from the center. So I could draw a line from any point on the outside, from the center of that sphere, and it would all be the exact same distance. And we call that distance the radius. Okay? So that's what makes it a sphere. I can't draw them very well, but it's a ball. Basketball, bouncy ball, soccer ball, all of those are spheres because every point, the distance from the center to any point on the outside of the sphere is going to be the same. That makes it a sphere. So the volume, again, is how much will fit into that sphere. And typically when we're talking about air, how much air it takes to fill up a basketball or one of the yoga balls in our room, how much air it takes, and we talk about that in cubic, whatever, centimeters or inches or whatever the measurement is, okay? So the formula to find the volume of a sphere, V equals 4/3 pi r cubed. That's the important difference. In this case, r is to the 3rd power and not just the 2nd, okay? There's no height in this part because the distance is the same all the way around. So V equals 4/3 times pi r cubed. There are a couple of really cool videos out on YouTube that you could go watch to figure out where this formula comes from. I'd encourage you to do that. But for now, we're just going to fill in the radius and then plug the rest into our calculator, and that gives us the volume of the sphere. So let's say that the radius, we'll talk about basketball. The radius on a basketball is somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 inches, okay? So we're going to call that 6 inches. Just to find out how much air fits into that basketball, or the volume, then we would do V equals 4/3 pi times 6 to the 3rd power. Again, we would just plug that into our calculator. 4/3 times pi times 6 to the 3rd power. Plug that into the calculator, and that gives us the volume. Again, you'll probably have to round, but the instructions will give you what to round to. So for your practice problems, you probably already figure out what they are. I already gave you 3 problems, and all I did was put the numbers there. So I need you to use the calculator either on your iPad or on your phone. You can turn the phone sideways if you're using a calculator on your phone, and the pi key will show up. Use those, and to write down what the volume is for the cylinder will be number 1. The cone will be number 2. And the sphere will be number 3. So find the volume of those 3 figures that are in your notes, take a picture of them, and then submit that through Edmodo. Here's the trick. If you didn't take notes, you don't have this information, so you need to go back and take notes.